Welcome to Life Begins at Midlife. You thought midlife came with a crisis. Nobody told you it came with a choice. The choice to stop shrinking and start living. The choice to put yourself first and not apologize for it. I'm Jackie Bourne, your host, and every week I'm bringing you the real, unfiltered conversations about what midlife looks like when you decide to do it your way. Grab your drink of choice and come on in. So hello and welcome to today's episode of Life Begins at Midlife. Today we've got Louise Brown with us and I'd like you to all give her a very warm welcome. Louise, it's been lovely to welcome you here today. Would you like to share a little bit about who you are with the guests?
I will do. Thank you, Jackie, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here and having this chat with you. So I'm Louise Brown. I'm an author, an NLP qualified coach, a speaker, a TEDx speaker, and positioned as a thought leader, really, on HR culture transformation and leadership. So that's pretty much what I'm all about. I was 30 plus years in the public sector, nearly 15 years as vice principal at a large further education college. So I've always been steeped in public service, really, is the way I like to describe it. And this next phase of my journey and my career, it's really comforting for me to be able to still serve and share and help people and support people as they're on their journeys, their career journeys, their leadership journeys, and some individual journeys as well. So yeah, it's a big change for me, stepping off the corporate ladder, but one that I'm really excited about and lots to look forward to.
Sounds exciting. So you mentioned you're an author. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book that you've written?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the author of Bold, Brave, Brilliant. And it is a book that's steeped in imposter syndrome, confidence, and self-doubt. So it's about my journey, my leadership journey. So it's part motivation and part support and advice, really, around how people can tackle the phenomena, as I call it, of imposter syndrome, how that impacted on me throughout my career as I've progressed. And really has got some tools, techniques, and a framework that I've developed called the BRAVE model. And that's really to help people, give them a bit of a leg up and tools and techniques to help them if they're on their journeys and suffering from things like lack of confidence, self-doubt, or that inner critic that's chewing away at their ear here and there, trying to guide them in a different direction than really where they should be heading.
Sounds great. And something I wanted to ask you about, because I listened to your talk yesterday at the networking group that we were both at, and you were telling us about the pink suitcase. Do you want to share a little bit about that little story that you shared with us yesterday?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, the famous broken pink suitcase. And this revolves around a moment that I call my tipping point moment. So I talk about in the book, I'm an alumni of Oxford University Saïd Business School. And a number of years ago, I was approached. I hadn't applied. I'd been approached to about attending a future CEO's residential programme at Saïd Business School, Oxford University. And it was just one of those opportunities you don't turn down. However, my first reaction, being overwhelmed with imposter syndrome, and if people read the book, they might understand a bit more about my own particular leadership journey. My first reaction was, no, not me, not Oxford. I even said, I'm too northern. I'm not going to fit in there. What am I going to wear? I'm not going there. It was just all these things were coming out of my mouth because I really genuinely believed that people like me didn't go to Oxford. People like me weren't worthy of sitting in those spaces. But underneath all of that, and there started to be sort of the tiniest spark of self-belief, and I sort of talked to myself and thought, do you know what, I've just got to give this a try. I've got to try and open that door. So I decided, yes, off I would go. And I took the train to Oxford, and I was there for a week. It was a residential programme that ran for solid weeks over a period of a couple of years. You went intermittently. And I had this bright pink, I have to say, quite ridiculous, bright pink broken suitcase with the handle that stuck upright. I actually have still got this suitcase. It made a cameo appearance at the book launch back in March. Don't ask me why we still had it in the loft. Probably my other half, he won't get rid of anything. So I actually said, I want a new case. I don't want to take this. And I got the response, nothing wrong with this, Lou. Just needs a bit of WD-40. Nothing wrong with it. You'll be fine. So off I went with the broken suitcase, got on the train, found myself wedged in the aisle with the handle stuck upright. So I couldn't put it on a shelf. I couldn't put it under the table. It wouldn't go anywhere. So I was blocking the aisle. I was already overwhelmed with imposter syndrome. And I found this train of very helpful men coming up to me for the next sort of 4+ hours, talking to me, offering to put the handle down for me, like I was some sort of imbecile that didn't know how to put a handle down on a suitcase. Anyhow, they would mess around with it a couple of minutes, and then they'd turn around to me and they would go, love, it's broken, this, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, fancy that. So by the time I got to Oxford, I was slightly disheveled, sweating massively, my head full of doubt, and just wanted to get off the train at Oxford Station, walk across to the opposite platform and get back on a train and head back to the safe hills of Lancashire and home. I was desperately, it was really overwhelming at that point, but I didn't. So I turned up at campus. Everything looked idyllic, yet I felt physically sick. So I found myself in my allocated room, or cell as I fondly referred to it at the time, sat on the edge of this bed with the TV on for distraction, watching Tipping Point with Ben Shepherd. And I sat there watching this quiz show with this giant jackpot counter edging nearer and nearer to this £10,000 drop. As time was ticking and I was watching this clock and it was edging nearer and nearer to the moment that I just had to go downstairs and meet the professors and the tutors and the CEOs and the fellow delegates. Every part of me, it was like, just run, just go, just grab the broken suitcase and go. But call it courage, tenacity, resilience, I don't know, but something shifted at that moment, and there was a tipping point where I thought the only thing keeping me paralysed in this room was actually me. And that was when I found some sort of steel backbone, that the moment I thought, I'm not going to let fear close the doors that I know that I'm really meant to walk through. I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And off I went. And I went down, and the rest is sort of history. And that was a massive turning point in my career, in my development. And then I continued to go there for a period of time, and made some lifelong friends and colleagues and things like that there, and realised that actually I was worthy of being in that space. But it was very real at the time. I was paralysed, and I could have just, on the flick of a coin, gone, no, not doing this. So it's a very real thing, is imposter syndrome, and it can change the trajectory so much of people's lives if they allow that inner critic to sort of take control in those moments of doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned yesterday in your talk that, about rather, embracing the imposter syndrome and walking alongside it rather than, trying to heal yourself and make yourself better and look like you're broken. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and give us some insight on that?
Yeah, so for years, I think people have framed imposter syndrome as some sort of something that needs fixing, and it is just a sort of a common reaction that's triggered by situations. It's quite simple. It convinces us, imposter syndrome convinces us that the ground beneath us is fragile, and people have viewed it as some sort of something wrong with you. Well, I don't believe that's right, and I position it as imposter phenomena rather than imposter syndrome, because it's not a disorder inferred by using the word syndrome. Like I say, it's just a common experience triggered by situations, and it convinces us the ground's fragile. But when we start to walk that fragile ground step by shaky step, I believe that then becomes stronger and is what propels us forward. So we channel it and use the energy and turn it into strength, really. I don't think it's something that you can eradicate. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to get rid of it. And that my view is don't do that. Turn it into actual strength, into energy, and learn to walk alongside it, and that way believe in it forward. And that's where the sort of brave model, that is the model that's featured in the book, which is a simple acronym standing for believe, reflect, acknowledge, validate, and empower. And that is the whole concept of believing it forward, the belief, the reflection, pausing to see the patterns, to learn from the struggles where these things have risen and reared their head and really impacted upon you.
That's great. And are you finding that there are a lot of sort of senior leaders, that are experiencing imposter syndrome?
Yeah, it's fascinating, really, when you start to look into the sort of psychology behind imposter syndrome, confidence, the inner critic, and things like that, because it affects all sorts of people. So it can affect like leaders, students, entrepreneurs, celebrities. It really doesn't discriminate. But it is quite interesting to see how it can manifest itself as people get further up their career ladders, their pathways. And it feels a bit counterintuitive, because you would imagine that the more people get experienced and qualified in their roles or their career paths, that they would feel more confident, not less. But that is when imposter syndrome can really come hurtling in, particularly with leaders that find themselves promoted into positions, and that self-doubt and that lack of confidence, and the inner critic thinking, who am I? I'm not worthy of now sitting here being responsible of all these hundreds or thousands of people, and being expected to know all the answers. So it is quite fascinating when you start to read around that it does rear its head in as you get more experience and more qualified, sometimes in people's careers.
Yeah, as you say, you think that the further up you get and the more, experienced you get, that you'd be leaving that behind.
Yeah, it is. Like I say, it feels counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because you think the opposite should be happening,
Yeah.
but the amount of leaders and CEOs and senior people that I've worked with and discussed, and who've read the book and have given me some fantastic feedback about it, because they've recognised how they've been feeling, but they've not been able to really quantify that or understand what was happening. But these deep-seated feelings um, and worries and lack of confidence and the loud doubt that can appear, they didn't quite understand why that was happening, and it's helped to clarify that, I think, and give people a bit of a framework to help them walk alongside it, because that, I truly believe that's what you need to do.
And I think a lot of people are, they don't want to openly admit it because then, they might be, feeling that people will judge them, in a different way. Whereas if they realize it's more common amongst leaders, more people might start speaking about it.
Absolutely. I think there has been, for many years previously, it's been, you don't talk about it. People see it as a weakness. Well, it's not a weakness. It's energy. I think it's energy, and it's proof that you care. And I think post-COVID, I describe it as, I think we're all still swimming in the waters of COVID, aren't we? And the whole world shifted, and people became more vulnerable, and they became willing to share their vulnerabilities perhaps a bit more than they previously had. And people are looking for authenticity and trust, and all these things. And if you're willing to share that, the amount of people that have come forward and shared their stories with me has been, it's been a little overwhelming, Jackie, if I'm honest with you. I've had such fantastic feedback, and how the book, so for me, again, imposter syndrome, overwhelmed, but the people are talking to me about the impact of the book and what it's had on their careers and their lives, their personal lives, their work lives. And really, that's what I set out to do, was share my journey. And if it helped just a handful of people on their journeys, for me, it would be job done, really. And the response has been phenomenal. I'm been absolutely delighted, overwhelmed somewhat, but delighted, yeah.
Great. And what's next for you and your journey going forward?
Well, what's next? Lots of I've got lots of ideas, Jackie, as I think you well know. But I've a journal that's just about to come out. That's just gone to print now, and that sits alongside Bold, Brave, Brilliant, really, because there's part of the book that I talk about journaling, because I think journaling is one of the simplest, most effective ways of capturing your inner critic in the act and rewriting that script in real time. And I think a lot of people don't understand journaling in a way. Some people think it's just keeping a diary and you feel religiously to write something in it every morning or every night. And journaling is whatever you want it to be. And I've been a big journaler through a lot of my life. And a lot of the book really was written by bits of, I call bits of madness, really, when I was looking back at journals and particular times in my life and particular events or challenges that had happened, and trying to make sense of what the heck had been scribbling about in it. But I do think it is something that can really help people order their thoughts and reflect back on how they were feeling in a particular occasion, a particular thing happened, and it can help them going forward. Because if you can step back and look at that in that reflection and think, in that moment I was feeling that way, but actually I didn't really need to feel that way or be so hard on myself, because if you think how things panned out a week or two later. So the journal, I thought, it's a bit of a kickstart. It's called a 7-day summit, and that's really just to give a little bit of a taster and a pattern of a 7-day of what you could do, how you work through journaling. And then after that, it's up to you, whatever you want to do, week, month, day, whatever. It's your journal, it's for you, and it has to work for you. So that's coming out, and I'm in the process. I've been commissioned to write book number 2 as well. So book number 2 will be very much around culture, leadership, culture transformation, and the HR world, because ultimately, I am a HR practitioner. I've got a master's in HR, and I've just been named on the CIPD HR Global 30 list, which was a fantastic achievement. But I want to sort of use that as a platform, if I can, for this great profession that I think HR is, and help share some of my thoughts around where the sector is at the moment. So it's there's a lot of discussion at the minute about HR professionals, practitioners on the edge of burnout. They've got some of the highest percentage of people leaving the profession, which I think is an absolute great shame, because it's a fantastic profession, and it's, you know, what it's done for my career has been phenomenal. And I want to sort of try and position the book that it helps those people, helps them reflect, see that there is a way forward, and helps promote and make sure that they're getting the support that they're needed, because they're often the ones that are holding everything together in an organisation where everybody else goes to. They're offering the support. They're you know, they have to find the answers. They have to find the solutions. It can be quite an isolating role at times, and it's HR look after an organisation in a way, but who's looking after HR? So that's a bit of the angle around it. So I'm underway with book number 2. A couple of ideas for the title yet, but not set in stone. So watch this space, really. But I missed writing once I'd finished Bold, Brave, Brilliant. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a chore at all. So I was delighted to be able to pick up the pen or the laptop again and set about the next one. So yeah, watch this space.
Sounds exciting. Is there any sort of idea of a date that it'll be ready, or is it just you know, when it's done?
Aiming for next year, that it'll come out next year. Depends how creative I can be, and get me off into those spaces. I like doing writing up in the lakes. I like that a lot up there, and I was doing quite a bit of thought and planning and structure whilst I was in Santorini recently as well. So if I find I can really, it opens my mind when I take myself to a different space. The other time that a lot of the structure and clarity and thought processes come through is when I'm out running. So it's real. If I have a book that is on the side for when I come back in from running, it says great ideas I have whilst out running, and I have a great idea for a particular paragraph or chapter or things like that, and I have to scribble it down. It comes clear as crystal while I'm out running. It's very, very strange, but I've got to capture it quite quickly when I come back in, because by the time I get in and the exhaustion, and I'm like, you're doing my stretches to make sure I don't get any injuries, that it's gone out of my head. So I come in and I scribble away as well, and then I try and make sense of it a bit later. But yeah, it's quite strange how that happens. I was talking to a sports psychologist about it recently, and he was like amazed how I can write letters, emails, structure my book, all this stuff. It comes as clear as anything whilst I'm out running. It's very strange, because he said often people, when they're running, they can't really focus in that level of detail. It clears their mind, but not in that way. So he described it as a bit of a superpower. So I thought, I'll take that, Jackie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just a pity you can't be your voice recording while you're running.
Yeah.
that would be ideal.
Yeah,
so you can capture everything while you're thinking, but might
most
be a
of
bit
the
more of a
time
challenge.
the heavy breathing is all
I was
that
going to
must
say
be
it might be a bit of a
recorded
challenge
up
to do
there.
that. Yeah. And if anybody wants to find out a little bit more, do you work one-on-one with people? Do you support people around, coaching with imposter syndrome?
Yes. So I've got a number of offers really that I'm doing going forward. So I am an NLP qualified coach, and I'm happy to work with individuals or businesses, either on a one-to-one basis or through development events. But I've got a bit of a flagship piece that's a little bit different than maybe the standard coaching offer. So I position it as a thought leader, where I can work with individuals or businesses who on a sort of retainer basis, so they have access to me Monday to Friday via WhatsApp, or we can arrange Teams calls and things like that. And that is to help them. it's a little bit like a co-pilot. Their own co-pilot was described to me when I was talking to somebody about it, and not the AI type, because that was driving me mad at the moment. But it's about having access to me and my 30 plus years of skills, knowledge, and expertise in my roles that I've had, and helping those leaders that are feeling a bit isolated, particularly, we talked about HR and it can be a lonely place, and to enable them to have access to somebody to help with that judgment where they're nobody else to talk to, they're in a real conundrum, or they want to share something before they go on and do that. Something could be a challenge, a problem that's going to keep them awake at night for many nights. A lot of the coaching offers are save up all your problems, write them down, collect it all together. We'll meet on 3 weeks on Wednesday and we'll go through it all and we'll help, find the solutions together. And that's great. But in the here and now, when there's something happening, people need access there and then. And that was my view. And if I can help people not have those sleepless nights till 3 weeks on Wednesday, we need to get them to be able to sleep tonight. And what can we do to have that discussion? There's still a formal coaching session in the month as well, but that then becomes a much more reflective piece, that identity-led leadership coaching, that self-investment and self-reflection, peeling back those layers rather than let's looking and solving these problems, challenges and things like that. So that's the offer really, which seems to be proving quite popular.
Yeah, I definitely feel that there's a space for that, because why would you want to keep all your your problems and all your things that are really stressing you out in this big bag ready to go unpack 3 weeks time?
Absolutely.
It's like keeping all your dirty laundry from your Santorini trip waiting for 3 weeks time and then unpacking it.
Yeah, because we only wash on the last Wednesday of the month. It's the analogy is perfect there, isn't it? No, it needed to go in the washer when it got back, because otherwise it'd be falling over it on the landing and it'll start getting a bit smelly, and it's just really not going.
And you might need to be able to use whatever it is, in the next day or so. So you don't want to be leaving it there. So
I
agree with
absolutely
that.
great analogy that. But it is surprising how I think it's a bit of a different concept there for people to think about and just have that access. And sometimes it can be a help and a comfort knowing that you've got on the end of that phone that you can send the text, you can have a conversation, you can have a call there to help you in those moments when
even just a sense check to make sure you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and when if doubt tries to take the wheel and control your head,
syndrome knocks on the door.
Exactly. If that's there thinking.
Imagine if you're going into a big room to go and do a presentation and you've got to wait 3 weeks to be able to go and get some support, and you've already done your presentation before that.
Exactly. This is it. Often either problems are solved or they've escalated to a point where it didn't need to escalate to that. Yeah. Somebody's like thought, I've had enough here. I can't do this anymore. And the impact on them and their families and the teams around them that they're managing. Because when you've got a manager that's under an inordinate amount of stress and pressure, that naturally, it's like a pressure pot, isn't it? It's bubbling away, and that pushes out. The steam starts to touch other people. The ripples go far and wide. And you can potentially stop that happening as well. So it's not just on the individual, it's the wider impact on others around them.
Absolutely. Well, you've got lots of exciting things coming up ahead, and I look forward to seeing your new journal and your new book that's coming out as well. And thank you so much for your time today, Louise. It's really been lovely chatting.
Oh, it's been a delight to talk to you, Jackie, and thank you for inviting me along to talk today. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Louise. And that's a wrap on another brilliant conversation. I hope it's left you feeling fired up, inspired, and ready to take on whatever this next chapter has in store for you. If you've loved this episode, hit subscribe so you never miss a thing. and share it with a midlife woman in your life who needs to hear it. That's how we build this revolution, one conversation at a time. And if something we talked about today has sparked something in you, come and find me, book an insight call, and let's talk about what's possible for you. Or follow me on Substack, where I go even deeper between episodes. Links for everything are in the show notes below. Until next time, remember, life doesn't just begin at 20, it begins again at midlife. See you next week.